All right, ladies and gents, we are back again, late night edition. Y'all can get y'all's wine and sip on it while y'all get ready to go to sleep, or y'all use something else before y'all go to sleep. I'm not judging. Y'all go grab that, sit back, relax. But also, if you can, you ready to take some notes. Um, I'm going to be taking some notes. For one, I got my notepad. I'm about to pull out my bag, and I'm going to be taking mental notes because one of the things that you should know about me is I'm a lifelong learner. Um, I wear a bunch of hats. I hold a bunch of degrees. I've started a bunch of companies, but I'm never above learning something new. And the gentleman I'm going to bring before you today, we go way back, like way back. And I've seen him evolve like tremendously over the years. And, he would jump in to some of my comments on my page and just drop wisdom. And I'm like, man, my guy is bringing it. So tonight he gonna bring it live and in person. Um, yep, he's gonna bring it live and in person. And I didn't even waste no more time. Dome Crusher, Craig Chambers, how's it going, my guy?
Man, it's going real well, Brian. Man, I appreciate you for allowing me to speak on your platform. I just want to let you know that and put that out there on the front end, man. I'm always grateful anytime somebody asks me to speak on that platform because it's a huge deal to me, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much, man.
Well, I appreciate those words, and I'm very cautious with who I bring before my audience, who I attach to my brand.
Hmm.
I remember when you and I first went into business together way back when I was doing Organo Gold,
Yep.
and we were just getting a taste of this whole business space. We
Yeah.
were complete rookies. We didn't know what we were doing, but we were doing
Didn't
it.
have a
Like
clue.
we was
Didn't have a
listen.
clue.
And if you think about that, a lot of people try to wait until they're perfect before they get started. We just
Yeah.
got started and we slowly but surely perfected our craft and
There you
found our
go.
lane. So just to kind of before we get into the meat and potatoes, I want everybody to remember this is called Legacy Dialogues, where I have dialogues with people that can bring you information, that can bring you knowledge. Just drop those little crumbs here and there that you can pick up and figure out what you can add to your arsenal, what you can add to what you do, the things that you implement into your life, and eventually you can start to create the legacy that you desire to leave behind. Now, first and foremost, man, we we came from, and I'm gonna actually get you to share some things that I don't even remember. So I know you moved to George County from
Hmm.
somewhere. Like I
Yeah.
forget which grade it was, but like kind of give the people the beginnings of you and I like even meeting.
So we actually moved to George County in the middle of my eighth grade year.
Mm,
Was when we moved. It was following a tragic a tragic loss. My dad passed away, so my mom wanted us to have a change of scenery. So she moved us to George County in the middle of our eighth grade year, and so I started out at George County Middle School, and then we kind of went from there. And so that's where we initially met was on the bus going to middle school. That's where we initially met and kind of sort of formed that friendship from there. And then it honestly just blossomed from there. Heck, we played sports together, ran track together. Heck, man, we dang near did every played every sport together, man.
so all right, the audio's acting crazy there for a second. I sit here and I think back to those days. And because I didn't start football until I got to high school, I didn't play
Mhm.
football in middle school. So by the time you was a grade behind me, right? I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, maybe a
Um,
grade or two. Yeah, maybe a grade behind
yeah,
you. Yeah.
yeah. You class of 05, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I know when you came to the high school, I was. Yeah, you need to take that off and watch it. I was, I was sophomore year. I was doing my best to get some playing time on varsity, but
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on JV that year.
Yep.
But towards the end of the year, I finally started to work up and get, a decent little bit of time here and there on varsity, like when we got a blowout or something. But I remember whenever you came up to, or you played, I want to say you played some JV with us your freshman year.
I did. I
Um,
did.
yeah, and I was like, this dude just like me. He ain't got no fear. Dude just be going. And oftentimes you will see, especially at your position. I think you started out at fullback. But I know you was
Mhm.
backfield,
I
and
did.
like oftentimes, because I started out at running back my freshman year, and I found out real quick I wasn't supposed to be no running back. They was throwing me around like a rag doll. But oftentimes you can tell from the jump somebody who was actually going to be a solid running back and somebody
Yeah.
who's probably they ain't really cut out for it
Yeah.
because they're either timid and you can see that timidness, or they out here and you're like, man, you're gonna get hurt because you go so hard. And I was like, Craig, this dude just go hard. And it was always you and Reggie. So
Yeah.
Reggie was the one. He had like the little quick feet. He had some some power, but he was quick with the cuts. But you would just run through folks.
Yeah.
You would
That,
just
that was
put
my
your
thing,
head
man.
down. And that's one thing I saw with you. I'm like, if he continues to do that, like he gonna be all right. And you did your thing, man. You got your reps that really help you stand out and make a name for yourself back in those days.
Oh yeah.
And when you think about that, um, and this question kind of leeway us into where we are today, but I'm going to jump back anyways. But can you, and also JROTC. So what
Yep.
I'm about to ask you, JROTC plays in as well. So do you think that the leadership, the discipline, the hard work that it took to be a football player, like do you see that playing into who you are today, how you're able to, run business the way that you do, and just be the male leader that you are today? Do you see that football background like really playing into that?
Yeah. If I'm being honest, man, I never thought about it, but now that you bring it to the forefront, I absolutely see that leadership, that structure that we had playing ball, man. Because it was, going back to playing JV, like even JV. We were still out there with the varsity guys running 2 a days, and we would, me and Reggie, like you said, we would go home and we would work out still at the house. So he and I, we were doing three times a day working out, and so I see all of that in what I'm doing now, man. Every single bit of it, because it takes discipline, it takes structure, it takes commitment, it takes consistency to run a business. And just like football, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have some days that's a breeze. You're going to have some days that's just like, why did I put on these pads? But
Hmm.
when it's all said and done, it's worth every bit of it. It's worth every bit of it. So I absolutely see that now that you bring it to the forefront, man. Absolutely.
Man, and I never thought a whole lot about it when I was younger, but when I started to train people in the entrepreneurship space, um, I started to use those analogies. I always would find analogies from athletics to bring into
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my coaching. Uh, and another thing, not just the coach or not just the football aspect of things, but the JROTC. So oftentimes, both of us rocking the bald head. So
Yep.
I would often be asked throughout, my years since I have been going bald. People ask me like, "Were you in the military?" And it's not just because of the bald head. It's something that I believe, and you can give me your own perspective, that
Mm-hmm.
ROTC, that JROTC instilled in us a certain way of carrying ourselves that it instilled in us that kind of it sticks with you, and you
That's right.
find yourself bringing it to the forefront. Like, what do you see, or can you like recall some of the principles, some of the mannerisms, the characteristics that were instilled in us back then? Can you see any of them playing out, and the way you operate today?
Absolutely, man. So well, just as well, but the listening audience may not know. I'm actually Army veteran, man. I've been serving 18 years now, and I got my start in JROTC. And a lot of those mannerisms that I learned in JROTC prepared me for basic training in AIT. I was already mentally prepared to handle the stressors that came along with it because our cadre and ROTC, they taught us discipline. They taught us structure. They taught us how to live the warrior ethos. They taught us, the Army values. The loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. All of those things come into play with how I run my business, especially especially integrity, because I feel like integrity is one of those key factors, Brian. Whenever you run in a business, it's very, very important because like you mentioned earlier, you basically vet who you bring onto your platforms because you want to make sure they are the best possible person to put in front of your audience, right? And so a lot of that, a lot of integrity plays into that because I know you well enough to know you have a spirit of discernment. And if that person isn't operating with a level of integrity, I'm pretty sure you won't bring them onto your platform and put them in front of your audience, man. So integrity is one of my though integrity is one of the Army values that I absolutely try to live by. I'm not saying I'm perfect by no means, but integrity is one of those things I do my absolute best to live by. I try to model it not just for myself, not just for my business, but for my children. I try to always model integrity, being honest and forthright upfront with people. Again, I'm not perfect, but I do my absolute best to live that one Army value. So ROTC was my kickstart, not just with the military, but not just with business, but with life.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of sort of hitting back on childhood and how we came up because I didn't have a whole lot of direction because like I mentioned, my dad died when I was 10, and so it's not saying it's impossible, but it's hard for a mom to raise a boy, because it's just one of those things, so I didn't have that growing up. I found that little piece when I joined ROTC, and it helped me find out, find a path in life that I could potentially walk down one day. And so ROTC helped me out quite a bit, man.
Man, you shared so much that I love, but the key piece I want to hit on is integrity because there was an exchange between you and I, probably a couple of years ago now, where I started this investment education group, and
Mm-hmm.
I asked you to be part of it. And you told me that, based off of certain licenses that you held, like you had to be careful with what you involve yourself with. And that showed me, after I just continued to reflect on it, like he really holds his profession to a very high, regard, because he's not about to jeopardize what he's building, for anything right now. And I speak about that. Like I mentioned that on occasion when I'm having other conversations, like, because I didn't get a license after my master's degree because I wanted to have, certain freedoms to do certain things outside the
Mm-hmm.
ordinary, because I understood how a license could, it could make it to where you focus in a certain area. While
Right.
it's important to have that focus at that specific time, for me personally, I wanted to be a little more diversified. But you, even though, the background that we had, our relationship, you were like, no, I can't do it right now. Be like, I got to focus on this. And that just demonstrates integrity. A lot of people will put certain things in jeopardy that they have created, that they've built,
Mm-hmm.
because they try to appease a relationship. And there's a time, for everything. And
That's right.
the fact that we've come full circle, and I just been watching you grow and grow and grow, and just you marketing the things that you're doing. and you just out here just handling business, it just makes me happy knowing where we came from, like what we came from, where we came
Right.
from, and now the
Right.
direction that we're going in. So just to kind of speak to that, before we kind of get into the whole financial aspect of things, like what can you say your childhood taught you about finance? Like, were there principles that were instilled? Were there examples that you saw that positively or allowed you to make a positive transition into adulthood? Or did you get into adulthood and you had to fall on your face and then start figuring things out?
Yeah, that's pretty much how it happened, right? If I'm being honest, that's pretty much how it happened. And I actually mentioned that whenever I tell my story a lot of times when I'm meeting with some of my clients, eh, because I tell people my background, right? And I tell people my background because I want them to understand I'm just like them. I don't
Hmm.
come from money, didn't come from money. Everything I've learned by studying, and developing my skill over years, So I don't come from money, didn't come from money. And so, and like I'm saying, it's no fault of, my parents, my grandparents. It's no fault of anybody's. It's just the lack of education and miseducation in general, because, I don't know about you, Brian, but I'm pretty sure you could speak on it. Most of our grandparents didn't know, how to properly save and invest. All we knew was the bank. All they knew was how to put their money in the bank. And then it coming from a time and coming from our culture where oftentimes they put money under the mattress because we weren't allowed to put money in the bank, in the financial institution. We weren't allowed to. And so, coming from that, there was a lot of lack of education, a lot of miseducation when it comes to money, when it comes to saving and investing in different things. So a lot of the aspects when it comes to money, Brian, man, I didn't learn until I got into business for myself. I joke about it, but it's the truth. I tell people the only two things I knew about money was how to make it and how to spend it. I know how to save it.
And that's real, man. Like you drop so many things that it may go over some people's head. Like
Hmm.
we we can't fault our parents for giving us the amount of education financially that they did because they
Hmm.
could only give us that which they received and which they
That's right.
experienced. And when you think about, the times whenever they were kids, whenever their parents were kids, there was not access to as much
Hmm.
information to the institutions, and even when there was access, there was fear to
Right.
to go and participate. And even after the fear, there was still not the education of knowing,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, I'm putting my money here, but I don't really know what's happening with it. This institution is doing whatever they want to do with my money while it's sitting there when I could actually be doing so much more with it,
That's right.
if I had the knowledge to do so.
That's right.
So I can relate to that as well. Whereas my parents, and I was asked I was asked this question earlier. Um, my parents, they, to my knowledge, they never had credit cards. All they ever had
Hmm.
was debit cards and cash. Like to my knowledge, yeah. And my dad, he used to always just throw his baseball cap when he get home from work onto the counter, put all his cash and change in the cap, throw his wallet there. Every so often, he'll ask us to grab something from his wallet, and all I ever saw was his bank card. So
Hmm.
I never got any knowledge around credit when I was coming up, and it happened. It was actually after I finished college, after I finished undergraduate, I moved to Miami, and that's when I got my first credit card. And I'm like, like I got my first credit card, and I saw that balance or the credit limit, and I'm like, what? I can spend all this money, and I was ready to spend every little penny because I didn't understand that, okay, you got to pay this back in a certain amount of time, and you're gonna have to pay more, and if you don't pay it on time, you're gonna have to pay even more. I didn't
Yeah.
have all that knowledge, so that's when I first got in trouble with credit. And the thing is, you don't know what you don't know until you
That's
know.
right.
So I had to
That's right.
fall on my face, and it took me a while to start digging myself out. Thankfully, The woman who I was with at the time, well, I think we were married by then. Uh, she actually used to work for a bank. She was actually a foreclosure specialist, so she understood it. So when I got that credit card, she didn't know about it. I
Right,
was in
right.
Miami. She and my son were still here in Mississippi. So I was just trying to do as much as I could without bothering them before I brought them
Hmm.
down to Miami. And it was
Hmm.
only after she moved down there and realized I had all this credit card debt that we started to put the things in place to try and fix it. But it took a while. Now, a lot of people, and I'll kind of leeway into you kind of speaking to the people on exactly what it is that you do. Um, a lot of people who come from where we come from still to
Hmm.
this day are skeptical about ways of making money that are outside of the norm. They're skeptical about investing, just so many
Yeah.
different things that you and I have gotten ourselves involved in when it comes to alternative ways of generating income. When people first learn about you, specifically partnering with the company you're with now,
Hmm.
what was some of the feedback, some of the energies that you got from people around you that didn't know that to be the person that you are?
Oof. It was it was a little rough, because uh, the key point that you just said right there is, that's not you, Craig. That's not what we see you as, type deal. And so I got quite a bit of that. Now I did have a couple people that, close to me, who supported me 100%. 100% supported me every bit of the way. But there were more people around me who knew me, who knew my character, right? Well, at the time, who knew my temperament, because I promise you, wasn't the best at the time. So it did not scream entrepreneur, right? It did not scream entrepreneur at all. Nothing about what I was doing screamed entrepreneur. So the people around me, for the most part, who knew me, uh, didn't feel like it was my field. It didn't feel like, that was me. And of course, when they know who you are, they don't want to really work with you. They don't want to do business with you. They don't even want to sit down and listen to you. You know what I'm saying? They don't even want to listen to you, um, because all they see is the person you are, the person you were once were. That's
Hmm.
that's what they hold on to quite a bit of the time. They don't see the growth within you, the growth that you've experienced over a period of time. All they can grasp and hold on to is, well, Craig, you used to be this way. I get that. I got that. I understand that, but that's not me anymore. So I went through a process, Brian, where I actually had to rebrand myself, man. I had to do a lot of rebranding. I had to do a lot of soul searching. I had to do a lot of, divesting of childhood traumas. I had to get rid of a lot of uh, things that had my temperament through the roof, and the way I spoke whenever I opened my mouth to people, and how I interacted with people. I actually had to start caring, because at one point in time, like, I didn't care. It's just true. I just didn't care. Um,
Hmm.
but the more I grew, the more I understood, well, if I'm going to be an entrepreneur, that cannot be my attitude. I cannot have the same, temperament, and expect to grow a business, a substantial business, a special business, where it not only benefits the people that surround me, but the community in which I operate, because ultimately that's what we want to do. I know that's what you want to do. And I know something I want to do, is because we talk about it. We want to impact the communities around us. And and if Craig is not a person that people can visually see, look at, and see, hey, that's the guy I want to work with, or if they don't see themselves saying, hey, or introducing me to other people, like, hey, this is my financial guy. If they don't see themselves doing that, then I am not doing what I need to do to grow a business, to build a business, to be the face, the persona, the type of person people need to see and hear to do business with, in order to be an impact in the community.
Now, let me ask you, because that's an area that lots of people take longer than necessary to get to, that real true introspection and understanding that in order for things to change for me, I got to change first. So,
Right.
like, how long into the entrepreneurial journey did it take you to come to that realization before you say, you know what, I got to switch things up if I want to be successful in the space?
Long time, man. When I say long time. Because like you mentioned earlier, you and I got started Orlando Gold, and I just thought I knew everything back then, but I was still very much so not the type of person people wanted to do business with. I knew nothing about nothing, but I was still trying. Uh, if I'm being honest, life took a turn for me in 2019, 2020. That's when life really just kind of took a turn for me. That was just a few years ago, if I'm being honest. Just a few years ago. That was on my third deployment, and I got to the point where I was tired of being angry all the time. I was tired of being mad. I was just tired, and so what I started doing while I was overseas, I started journaling. I started getting back to my spiritual background. I just started doing, you know, internally and externally forgiving others for wronging me, and then asking people for forgiveness who I've wronged. Um, not in an attempt to do business with anybody, but because I want to be better. I wanted to be better.
Hmm.
So that's what I started doing. So man, if I had to put a time frame on it, man, I'll be honest, it took me 10 plus years. It took me over a decade to really just get to that introspection that, hey, if you continue on this road, you're not going to make it. You will never build a business. You will never even attract people to come into your business to, work with you to grow a business. So it took me well over a decade to get there, man. It took me a while. It took me a while.
And I want to thank you for just being real with it, because a lot of people were like, man, I figured out real quick. I was around these people. No, don't BS. Like, keep it real.
Yeah.
And, and
Yeah.
and I like that about you, because it increases the relatability. It helps people
Hmm.
realize I don't have to have it all figured out the first year in
That's
business.
right.
I
That's
don't have
right.
to have it all figured out the first 10 years in business. But
Because you won't.
there's 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 no better time to start figuring it out than today. So,
Hmm.
never beat yourself up for who you were or what you were, or how you were, but just make a decision today to not be like that
That's
anymore.
right. That's right.
Just as we can't fault ourselves for things that happen to us, but once we get new information, once we have new realizations, we have the responsibility to implement what's necessary to change the situation.
That's correct. That's
And
correct.
when we're humble enough to accept the fact that something's got to change, I'm not going in the right direction, and we seek that external counsel,
Hmm.
we seek that higher power for
That's
some
right.
guidance. Only then can we realize that I can't do it all by myself.
Hmm.
And when you surround yourself with the right people and the right energy, slowly but surely you'll start walking in the right line. Um, I watched a movie last night. I was put on that movie, but this lady that's laying next to me, she like knocked out now. I was put onto this movie called The Forge. I don't know if you
Oh,
ever
that's a good move.
you watched it.
Heck
Yes,
yeah,
it was
that's a
my
good
first
move.
time watching it. Yes, and like, even me at my young tender age of 39, I said, I said, and this one guy popped into my mind, and like, I picked up my phone, I scrolled through my messages, and I hit him
Hmm.
up. He's an older fella. He's
Yeah,
done so much more than I have done, and I'm like, I got to reach out to him. And I got a hold of him, and we're gonna have a meeting on Wednesday.
nice.
I don't know what's gonna come of it, but I'm going to sit in the seat of the student.
Hmm.
And we have to get to that stage in life to where, yes, you are competent in your leadership. You impact so many different lives. There's so many people who are better off because of you, but
Mm-hmm.
there's always a higher mountain. There's always more that you can learn so that you can go and do more.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so let's just go ahead and kind of transition into like what initially got you into the life insurance space. Share with the people the company that you work with. Because I got at least a handful of people who are with the same company that I've been
Okay.
working with for a while. And like what got you into the space? How has the company been treating you, and how have you been able to help people so far with your
So
company?
so I got started with Primerica. So I've been with Primerica right now, going on a decade, man. So 10 years in June for me. And I actually I got initially introduced to the business in 2014. One of my good friends that's in the military introduced me to the business. But at the time he introduced me to the business, he brought it to me from a monetary aspect, right? Like, hey, you can make six figures in business and all this other fun stuff.
Of course.
But, somebody who was already making six figures, that wasn't really attractive to me. It wasn't attractive to me at all. Because if you want me to be attractive, show me how to make more than six figures. And so I kind of brushed it off. Now, the other concepts with about money, I could see how I could fit them into my life, but I still didn't, just being honest, being transparent. I still didn't implement them in my life. And so at the time he introduced me to the business, Brian, I was working in the oil field. And I don't know if you know anything about the oil field, but it's got its highs and it's got its lows. And so I went in on a high, man. I'm talking about the oil field was booming. Dude, I was making more money than I ever seen in my life at that point in time, dude. And dude, I was living a high life. I'm gonna be honest, man. I blew a lot of money working in the I blew it out of a lot of money because I didn't have those. I didn't have those rules to play by. I've learned since I've been in business. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you save. That's what it's all about. 'Cause you can make $1 million, but if you don't save a dime, you ain't got $1 million. So,
Right.
so I left the oil field in 2014, and I started driving trucks. I quickly found out I hated driving trucks. And so I was on the way back to the yard one day, man. And excuse my language, but I was pissed. I was hating my job. I was hating life. Because whenever you hear truck driver, you think money, you think dollars, hand over fist, you're making money. That wasn't the case for me. I was actually spending more money going to work than I was actually making. So I
Mm,
was not happy about that. And so I called my buddy up. I asked him if the opportunity was still available. He told me yes. I immediately, Brian, I was so adamant about doing something else. I gave him all of my information over the phone. When I got back to the yard, I parked the truck, gave the managers the keys, and I told him I'm out. I'm done. And so I went to the pre-licensing course that weekend, knocked it out, went and took my test that very next week, passed it the first time go. Within about 2 weeks, I was appointed, to market life insurance. And then about a month after that, I got my first big promotion. And so I was like, okay, all right, well, it works because I did these few steps. And so I was able to get this promotion. And so if it works, I'm gonna stick around just to, feel it out, see what it's like. And so I did just that, man. And so I still had to go through a whole lot of growing pains in that process. A lot of growing pains in that process because I still had to learn the business, still had to learn how to market the products we had, and everything that comes along with the Primerica opportunity. And now I'm licensed in about 10 different states. I refocused in December while I was down, like we was talking about earlier. I
mhm.
refocused in December, and when I had the energy and strength to get up and start moving around, I started my focus in December. I didn't start in January because by then it's already too late. So I started in December, kind of sort of game plan together for how I wanted to attack go into 2025. And so, coming into 2025, man, we started the year off pretty doggone good in 2025. We were able to increase business income by 200% in January. So we were excited about that. And, the business is just steadily growing, man. And so that's how I got into it, man. I hated my job. I called my buddy up and said, hey, I'm ready. And I got started. And that's that. It took me a year to get started, but nonetheless, I'm still here, still rocking and rolling, still doing great things for the community, man. And still, meet with customers and clients day after day, kneecap to kneecap, face to face, or, via Zoom, however they prefer.
Mhm. I love it, man. I love it. Now, just to kind of speak to just the industry in general,
Mm-hmm.
the industry that Primerica sits in, the industry that Organo Go sits in, the industry a lot of these companies sit in. Oftentimes, you got people who understands the value. They understand, the business model. They understand, the perks to it. But then you have the people that no matter what you tell them, no matter what you show them, no matter what results, come out, they still like, that's a scam. So especially people with small minds in Mississippi, people with small
Right.
minds, here in the South in general. What is your or how have you dealt with individuals that don't really understand and or believe in the business model that you're operating under, when it comes to life insurance?
Well, Brian, it's like you said, some people, no matter who they are, and I say this jokingly, but it's the truth. There's an adage that, one of our mentors teaches, you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. But on the flip side, you can never say the right thing to the wrong person. And so I joke about it, but if it's the wrong person for the business, for my business, for what we're doing, Jesus can be standing there telling them, hey, this is what you need to do. And if they're the wrong person, they still won't do it. And so for those individuals like that, Brian, I meet them where they are, right? I don't force anything on them. I meet them where they are and I plant a seed. Because if that seed is meant to grow, it'll grow. If that seed is not meant to grow, then it won't. But either way, I treat that person with respect and dignity because at the end of the day, if that seed does grow and that person calls me back and says, hey, Craig, I'm ready, then I need to be in a position to be ready for them to come back. And so that's how I handle them, man. I meet them where they are and I plant a seed with them to let them know, hey, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you. This is what I want to show you. At any point in time, whenever you change your mind, I'll be here. So that's how I handle those, man.
Got it. I'm still here. The lights automatic sensor just went out.
I got you.
um, yeah, that's important. Um, I like that you mentioned that approach. I like that you mentioned that approach because oftentimes people are just ignorant about it. People
Mm-hmm.
go to making analogies. Well, such and such is a such and such, and you're in your job just over broke. Like there's so many people that use ignorance to combat ignorance, and
Right.
that's just not the way to go about it. And you mentioned just planting a seed, and that's with anything in life. Like we can never force feed people into doing, participating in, being part of, supporting anything that their mind isn't ready to support or to be
That's
involved
right.
in. But we
That's right.
can plant a seed, and when you plant that seed with care and respect, like you said, that person may come back later on in life and like, you know
Mm-hmm.
what, man, I wasn't ready when you first brought it to me. My mind just wasn't in the right place.
That's right.
But it is like you like what happened with you is an
Yeah.
opportunity still available.
100%.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I was I saw my ex-wife get involved with Herbalife back in like 2009, 2010 or so. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
couple years before I took advantage of Organo Gold, and I saw the potential in it, but at the same time, at that time, my mind wasn't fully in the place to see the true value. So I
Right.
read into a lot of the negativity, and I really wasn't as supportive as I could have been. Now,
Mm-hmm.
whenever Organo Gold came to me, I was working on my psychology degree. So I started analyzing everything. Like
Right.
I saw the BS when the BS was there, slowly but surely. But I saw
Yeah.
it. The income claims, the health claim. Like I saw it slowly but surely. It took a while.
Mm-hmm.
I drank the Kool-Aid at first too. Most of
Yeah.
us we drink the Kool-Aid at first.
Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah, so like I shot myself in the foot when it came to building business partners because I said too much without knowing what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking negative about people with traditional jobs. Like
Mm-hmm.
you got to get to a certain level of maturity to where you got to get to a certain level of maturity and competence to where you don't have to be that person that craps
Right.
all over somebody else just because you think what you have to offer is better. Well, if you
That's
think
right.
about it, and I put this on my social media the other day, that entrepreneurs have got to stop crapping all over people that work traditional jobs, unless
That's right.
you're going to start manufacturing your own cars, unless you're
That's
going to
right.
start building your own roads that you like. We have to have people with traditional jobs,
We
or
do.
society can't function. So,
We do.
so with you working in the life insurance space, oftentimes um, the uninitiated, when they hear life insurance, all they think of is death benefits. So let's kind of go ahead and just tiptoe into just at face value whenever you're meeting a client. Let's say they're a client that they didn't necessarily come with any type of information. They don't know what they
Mm-hmm.
need. They don't know, like, they just want to get some sort of life insurance because somebody said you need life insurance. What is that
Right.
conversation that you have with them to try and help determine where they are in life and what they actually need based off of where they are in life?
Okay. It's Brian. I'm glad you brought that up, uh, because when it comes to how I do business, and this is something I had to learn over time too, because like you said before, you drink the Kool-Aid at first, and then you develop your own way of doing business. And so whenever I initially got started, I would just come at people. Hey, like, this is what you need to do. Hey, just throwing at them, and I drove people away. But then I can't, for the life of me, I cannot remember his name. It'll come to me. But he had this segment where he says, "Try to sell me this pen, right? Sell me
Um,
this."
the Wolf of Wall Street,
Yeah,
Jordan
yeah,
Belfort.
yeah, yeah. Him. Sell me this
Hmm.
pen, right? And so as I was watching the video, I'm thinking of ways I can sell the pen to this guy, right? I'm watching the video, but as the video goes on, right, he thanks everybody for their participation. And then he said the first thing you need to do basically is establish the need. Because if
Hmm.
there is no need, then in a sense, you're wasting your time, But if somebody comes to me and they come to me, all right, they've already personally established the need for themselves. And so what I
Hmm.
try my best to do is ask more questions to find out, their reasoning. Hey, hey, what's the primary reason you want to get life insurance? And I also ask this question: hey, what type of life insurance are you looking for? Because not everybody is looking for the same type of life insurance, because it's so many types of life insurance out there. And so I asked that question as well. And so, I talked to them about family. Hey, what are you married? Do you have children? where do you work? What do you do? Type thing. So I asked those questions because they help me navigate how to establish what the client actually needs, right? And so I actually use what's called the DIME method whenever I'm talking to my clients, right? So DIME stands for debt, income, mortgage, and education. Okay, so those are the four principal areas in every family's life to help establish how much coverage you actually need, right? And so because I ask these few questions, right? I'm just using, for example, hey Brian, if you're married, you got a spouse. Hey Brian, if your spouse passed away today, would you want all the debts paid off?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, you want all the debts paid off, right? And so I always ask the spouse, the lady, this question, Mr. Street, if Brian wasn't here today, would you still want his income coming in? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
They want that income coming in, because what a lot of people fail to realize, Brian, is your number one asset in life. It's not a house, it's not a car, it's your ability to earn income. And if your ability to earn income ceases because you cease, then that income is not coming in. Your surviving spouse and children, they're not getting your paycheck anymore. And so that is probably the most important part about the DIME method, because I want to make sure whenever you pass away, your surviving spouse and children get your paycheck times 10. Okay. And so I use a rule of thumb because I don't know if you're familiar with them, but Dave Ramsey, a third person, that's what he talks about, having 10 times your income, honestly, just as a base, for life insurance. And so the mortgage, this one is even more important because nobody wants to lose a house after losing a spouse. And I always ask, hey, do you agree or disagree? They always agree with that. And so when it comes to the education for the children, hey, education is important to some people, Brian, but not as important to others. But either way, should you or your spouse pass away prematurely, would you want to establish an education fund for your children to go to college and they don't have to worry about starting their life off in debt? Most times, parents absolutely. And we implement that in there, Brian. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
how I establish the need, not based off what Craig tells them, but based off what this family says. Hey, we want the debts paid off. We want the income still coming in. We want to pay off the house. We want to set up a small education fund for our children should we pass away prematurely. I use those four factors to help determine how much a family needs. And that's the great part about what I do, as opposed to, a lot of other companies. I can tailor every policy to my clients. I don't have a cookie cutter plan, I just don't. I don't have cookie cutter plan. And look, I don't even have cookie cutters in my kitchen because I freehand, I freehand. So that's how I help establish the need and help establish how much clients need when it comes to their life insurance coverage. I ask those 4 or 5 simple questions, Brian. They give me the answers, and then hey, I go ahead and I give them a quote for it. And there's another question that I asked too, is I asked them what their monthly income is. And I do that for this very, very important reason. Okay. I do that for this very, very important reason. I apologize. It's important to me, like you mentioned earlier, it's important to me that my clients have coverage. Okay. It's important. I believe in the concept that oatmeal beats no meal. Something is better than nothing at all. And so
Mm-hmm.
it is not my job to tear your mouth out or rip your bank account apart when it comes to your monthly premium, right? I want to make sure it's something you can afford. So what I like to do is I use the 2 to 3% method. And so that's why I asked, the monthly income, because I use that 2 to 3% method, and I give you a quote based on that 2 to 3%, because I know, or at least in my mind, that 2 to 3% should be fairly affordable for you, fairly reasonable, and it's something that you can keep long term, and you don't have to drop it in the next couple of months because it's too expensive. So that's
Hmm.
my methodology. That's how Craig works.
Now, not really. When I ask these questions, it's not always that I don't know the answer, but it's because I want you so bad to educate the people that are listening. Because I know people who
Hmm.
are watching this, not only, may they be interested in life insurance, but a lot of the people who follow me are entrepreneurs. And
Right.
when you're an amateur, oftentimes you find yourself throwing the kitchen sink at somebody when you don't even know if they
Hmm.
need a spoon or a fork. So
That's right.
you got to ask the right questions.
That's
You got to ask
right.
the right questions first so you know exactly what in your tool belt to reach out and give to the person.
That's correct.
And it's one of the things, I'm oftentimes, because people have been seeing me coaching and doing this training thing for years now. So they want me to be part of their organization because they see the leadership that I bring to the table. But
Hmm.
they'll I got my VP of global this, that, and the third. He's top income earner, this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I
At
don't
all.
care.
At all.
And and I'm thinking, when are you gonna ask anything about me? We
That's,
have this wonderful opportunity. It will be perfect for you. It won't interrupt anything you currently do. How the you have no idea what I currently do. So how can you
exactly.
say that?
Exactly.
So oftentimes I'll let them know, like, look, let's have a dialogue, let's have a conversation, the two of us first, so that we
Hmm.
can, familiarize ourselves with one another. Because I'm trying to help you out right now. Because if we don't do
That's
this
right.
dialogue, I'm probably gonna make you look like a fool when you put this other person on the line with me, and I'm telling this person that I do this, that, and the third. I already, run this, that, and the third, and they're looking at me like, well, dang, like, why are you even in front of me? You don't have time for this. You
Hmm.
don't have the commitment to do this. Because I tell them, I don't say, oh, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if I have time. I tell them I am not willing to commit what it will take for me to be successful with that to
Right.
distract from what I'm already building.
Right.
And oftentimes, the person who got me on the call will feel bad sometimes. And I'm like, that's why you need to have a genuine dialogue, ask the questions
Hmm.
before you try to throw somebody in front of something that you want them to be perfect for without
Right.
realizing or asking if they actually need it right now. So I don't know. I think you probably know. I want to say I maybe yeah I referenced to you before, but I was a licensed agent for a very brief time when I was in Miami. I worked for a
Hmm.
company called American Income Life, and
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
we had yeah we had term, whole, and annuities. Those were the focuses that my team had, and I worked with them for only a brief period of time because I kind of got into the company under false false pretenses. Um,
Yeah.
it said benefits director. I had no idea what it was, but I liked what they said about how much you could earn. And I'm like, I'm going
Right.
to apply. I'm going to show up to the meeting. I got there and they talk about all these advances and like this, that, and the third. And I'm like, I'm sold. I took the test,
Hmm.
failed the first time, took it again, passed it. Okay, now it's time to make that money. So I get out there, write a policy. Took a while before I was able to write the first one. I got that cash advance coming. I get to the office Monday morning. Brian, can we talk to you? Their check bounced. We're not going to be able to pay you. We need that money back. And I'm like, seriously? It happened 2 times in a row. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And at the time, I wasn't in a position to where I had anything sitting, like anything put back to be able to
Yeah.
sustain me. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I cannot operate on only commissions right now. Um,
Right.
so I gave it up, but I learned so much since then on how to actually be successful in that space. But I mentioned this to say you made a reference. I forget the exact wording that you use, but one of the things that we would always say to the potential policyholders when going to homes was, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and
Hmm.
not have it when it comes to
Hmm.
being covered. Um, But at that same time, I wasn't the individual that knew how to ask all the right questions at that stage in my career. It
Right.
took me a couple of years to understand how to ask the right questions to close, whatever type of deal, be it selling a product, a service, or a policy. So after after you got into your groove, so to say, with Primerica, how long did it take you to say, okay, I really am dedicated to making a career out of this?
Took me a while. It took me a while. It took me a while. Because as I mentioned earlier, that was still in my I need to divest a lot of this internal trauma that I'm dealing with. So it took me a while to actually just dive deep off into it. I think it took me about 5 or 6 years to even get securities license in the business, man, to get my investment licenses. So it took me a while to really just say, okay, this is what I want to do. I kind of want to make it. I want to work this. I want to build a business here. And for me, the reason why I just made that decision, okay, because what I see, the reason I came into the business, and this goes back to a question you asked earlier. I didn't get around to answering it. So I came into the business because I wanted to make money. Right? That's why I came into the business. And just as well as I know, as an entrepreneur, that won't keep you. You have to grasp a hold to something much larger than yourself if you want to stay in business long term. And so what I started doing was I started helping clients. I started going out and talking to clients, not just about life insurance, but the investment side of the house, right? That's what I started doing. And so, like you said, I pulled that tool out of my belt and I was able to use that tool because one thing that people have no clue about, Brian, outside of life insurance, is how to properly save and invest. They ain't got a clue.
Hmm. Hmm.
95% of people have no clue how to properly save and invest. And so for me, it was establishing the need for retirement. Because if I can show you, okay, your 401k is doing this because it's not properly allocated. But Brian, if I
Hmm.
can show you how to go from here to here, and then I can, potentially make a $2-3 million difference in your retirement. How much of an asset have I become to you? How much value have I brought to your table at that point in time? And so that's when, for me, that's when a switch really flipped. Whenever I could not only talk about investments, but I can show my clients what vehicles to use to get them from point A to point B and navigate those in betweens, right? Because that's what a lot of people, that's what they really want help with. How can I
Hmm.
increase my retirement? Okay, and that's one of the other things that I utilize is the FNA, the financial needs analysis, because it answers that question. Because most people think retirement is an age, Brian. It's not an
Right.
age. It's a number.
Hmm.
It's the amount of money you need to have whenever you're ready to say, I don't want to work a full-time job anymore, right? That's called your FIN, or your financial independence number. And so if you don't know what your financial independence number is, like you said, Brian, now is the time to be trying to figure that out, because I teach my children all the time, especially my son, you cannot hit a target if you can't see it. You cannot hit a target if you
Hmm.
don't know what it is. And so if you want to know how much you need whenever you hit retirement to take you through retirement and to leave an inheritance, well, you got to sit down with a financial professional to help you figure that out. That's what you have to do. You
Exactly.
have to sit down with somebody to help you figure that out. And so that's what it was for me, Brian. It took me a while to get there, but like you said earlier, that came with a lot of inexperience. And then I didn't have the right tools in my belt to help me think that way. Because when you only have one license, when you only have a life insurance license, all you think is life insurance. But when you got that securities license, that opens up a whole new playing field for you, and it makes sense to people. So if I got somebody named Craig sitting in front of me that can properly teach me how to save and invest, and how I can make a potential $2-3 million difference in my retirement, he's going to get my investment business. He's going to get my life insurance. Like, I'm going to give him all of my business, because why not make
Mm-hmm.
this my financial guy if he's taking the time, and like we talked about earlier, Brian, if he's taking the time to properly educate me. That's what's
That's
missing.
it.
That's what's missing. Education.
It's
And
so real.
that's for me, that's when it took a turn, man. When I had that other set of licenses, and I was able to do the full job for my clients, to really truly properly educate them on how to build a financial house, man.
Now, see, I'm feeling your excitement talking about this, and it demonstrates the fact that you love what you do,
I
and
do.
that's the
I
thing, man.
do.
What when you make it more than about yourself, that's when it
Mhm.
really gets fun.
That's
Because for
right.
one, you look at where you came from, and you're like, dang, I got this little bit of knowledge now. I'm doing a little bit better. I know how to do better. I know how I'm going to continue to grow. Hold up. I can teach other people to get to this
Right.
stage. I can help
Right.
other people come to the know. And that's a good feeling when you can help impact the life of others doing
Mhm.
something works. Because I
That's
did it
right.
for myself. It works. And then just to kind of rewind, and this is something I just kind of wanted to put out there. You mentioned how long it took you to really fall into, your lane, so to say, because you had to undo some past trauma. You had to deal with some
Mhm.
things on the mental and emotional side before you could really zone in on business.
Mhm.
Now, that's an area that I operate in, coming from, having a psychology background, having a social work background. You have a lot of people that see me with what's that MSW behind your name, Master Social Work. Hold up, social work, but you over here talking about business. You don't
Mhm.
realize so many people think they have a business problem. You good with business. You got a relationship problem. You got an
Yeah, big
emotional
time.
problem. You got something
Big
going
time.
on over here with your child instead of getting in trouble at school so you can't focus on work. You got this
Mhm.
this, divorce that is like just making you insane, but you can't talk to your business leaders about your divorce. So that's how
That's
I
right.
differentiate myself. That's how that's my unique value proposition. Not only am I going to
Mhm.
help you understand, okay, this is how you put together a proper budget. I'm going to help you understand, okay, why was your income to your debt to income ratio such a difference last month compared to the previous month? Let's talk about what was going on in the household. Let's talk about what's going
Mhm.
on, internally. And we realize you have this specific emotional trigger that causes you to spend more, and you don't even think about it till you get to the end of the month, and then it's too late.
Yeah.
So we start to address some of those underlying causes. I mentioned that because I want people to listen to your story, understand that, dang, man, it took my guy 10 years to really get lasered in. Maybe I need to, and it's a shameless plug, but at the same time, it's just real talk.
Mhm.
Maybe I need someone who can help me navigate what's going on, in this outside of my business life so that I can be able to focus on business
That's
eventually. But at the same time, just have a mentor, period. Have
right.
somebody
Mhm.
that you can go to. And I felt like, I knew we were going to go probably over an hour, and there's so much more that I want to dive deeper into, but I want to respect the hour. So I'm gonna just tell the people right now, we're gonna have Craig back a few more times, and we're gonna dive deep into certain areas. We're gonna dive deep into, okay, this is why you need this type of coverage. If you're this type of family, this is how I can protect you in this stage of life, that stage of life. I want to kind of debunk some of the things. A lot of times you see a whole bunch of people, in this recent year or so, you got to get an IUL. IUL is the only way to go. So helping understand, okay, It takes X, Y, and Z to actually be able to get an IUL put in place. If you ain't got these things, then you don't even need to be talking about IULs. But most people are thinking, oh, I'm just going to get an IUL. I'm going to be my own bank. I'm going to get this type of policy. I'm going to be my own bank. Like, do you realize how it works, though? They don't. So I know you know so much more of the nitty gritty than I do. I just look at the pure fact that everything does not apply to everyone ever.
No,
So
no,
there's
no.
got to be some things that someone who is a specialist in this space can specify. Like, look, if you are in X, Y, and Z situation, stop even thinking about these things over here.
Mhm.
So we'll bring you back to speak on some different areas of life insurance. But this is what I want to leave everybody with, and I want you to co-sign me if you agree, which I'm pretty sure you will agree. In today's day, we got so many people who are complaining about certain people who are in power. We got so
Mhm.
many people complaining about just various different policies that are in place and are that have been stripped. I was on a podcast the night before last, and I kind of closed it out with these points, and I had them written down, so I'm not gonna be verbatim. But if you don't have life insurance in place, shut up talking about who's in office. If you don't have your budget put together, stop worrying about who's in office. If you don't have investments in something, shut up talking about who's in office. When you can't take self accountability, but you're pointing your finger at, I want that man, I want that woman to help change my. No. If you
Mhm.
can't take accountability in your own house, how can you expect anybody on the outside to be able to help you? So you got to take responsibility, accountability, and get your own ducks in a row before you
That's
expect
right.
any type of external force to help you.
That's right. That's correct. I agree with that 100%.
Well, man, I sure appreciate your time. Like I said, we're definitely gonna do it again. I got somebody who ready to snuggle a little bit, so I'm gonna call it a night for a little bit until I transition to some other things I got to get taken care of before I go to sleep. But thank you again, man. I'm gonna close out with the audience, put you backstage, then I'm gonna come and close it
Okay.
out with you, and we'll call it a night. All
All right,
right.
brother.
So
Thank you, man. I appreciate you so much.
my absolute pleasure. But before I let you go, and
Yeah.
I can't leave without saying this. Anybody who needs life insurance, anybody who is considered, ooh, I might need to get something put in place. If you just have questions, period, make sure you reach out to Craig. I'm gonna make sure I tag him in the Facebook. It's still gonna be showing for a while. I'm gonna make sure I put his information inside the description on YouTube. So do not hesitate to reach out to Craig. If you forget to where to go, just reach out directly to me, and I'll get you connected with him. Because, like he said, he's out here wanting to impact the community. And like I said, there's a handful of people that I work with that are part of the Primerica family. But if I had to
Mhm.
point you to anybody, Craig is going to be the first one I point you to. So so feel free, man. I don't know if you can do so on your end or not, but hop on the Facebook and like drop anything under after we finish, anything under the video that you want, regarding what you have to offer, services, links, whatever, and I'll make sure that
Okay.
it gets promoted.
For
All right.
sure. I sure will.
Definitely, man. So hang tight backstage and go ahead and close it out.
All right, brother.
All right now. All right, guys. So that was another one. My guy Craig Chambers. I'm telling you, I remember those days. We playing second team offense, second team defense in practice, and we going up against each other. We getting hot and heated. It used to be some good old times. Like we was beefing back then and going at each other. But man, the memories and to see where we are today is just it's so beautiful. Um, so, guys, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, doubts, grievances, suggestions, whatever, when it comes to life insurance, when it comes to black men in business, holla at us, and we'll give you the game. We'll, give you the info that you need to put your concerns to rest. But more than nothing, just take the information, whatever information you can, and try to apply it. Pass it forward, but try to apply it. Don't just come here and say, "Ooh, I watched it, good stuff," and going about your life. Apply something that you learn. Reach out to someone. Mention investing to someone. See who you can get help. If you can't get it from me, let me know how I can connect you with Craig. Craig's got some licenses that he has in place that he can help you a little bit more in certain areas that I can. And there may be some things that I can talk to you about and he necessarily can't because he has to respect his licenses. But don't hesitate to reach out. There's enough out here for all us to eat, but you can't eat if you don't open your mouth. So off that note, guys, y'all have a wonderful remainder of your night. We'll be back on Wednesday. I want to say Wednesday and Thursday. I'll have two other shows, but y'all just stay tuned. Much love. Y'all stay warm if y'all in these cold weather areas. They told us it was gonna warm up, but it ain't warm enough for me yet. Um, y'all just stay well. We'll see you soon.